out here in the garden, just enjoying myself in my prayer garden, thanking God for another day. Welcome y'all to Lovely J Podcast. This is Coco. Can we talk about major depressive disorder and how I realized that I was in trouble, but still did not deal with some things that were going on in my life, which is now showing up as repressed emotions and repressed grief because I didn't deal with it at that time. Y'all come on through. Let's talk. Okay, so where I left off at in my last podcast, I was talking about 2014 was a major life-changing event for me. My dad passed away. When my dad passed away, I came home to an empty house. Rollo was not here. Rollo, for some reason, chose to be on the creek and doing what he was doing. He forgot that. He didn't forget. He didn't care that I needed him. And when my dad died, I remember I had to come here and I received that news by myself. I didn't have nobody to hold me up. I didn't have no friends to look to and say, hey, my dad just passed. And when I did go to the church, don't get me started on the church. When I did go to the church was like, well, you got to let the dead bury the dead. And I'm like, but he just died. And you're talking to someone who's a babe in Christ. I don't understand what let the dead bury the dead means. At that time, I didn't understand that. And it was fresh. I hadn't even written out the obituary. Now, this is my second time. I didn't wrote out. I didn't do these obituaries. And 2014 was the moment when I realized I had some mental issues going on that were induced. I wasn't born like that. Of course, we know that we go through life and we have these traumas. But it opened up a whole world for me to realize that I had some anxieties going on. I had just spent Thanksgiving and Christmas. I stayed in the hospital with my dad for 2 months. And that's one of the reasons why Rollo wasn't really up here, because I was at the hospital staying. And so he stayed down there with his people. This is 2014. And I'm not letting Daddy stay in that hospital by himself, because I saw how they, had a bruising before. They let him fall. He had black eyes from the fall. And he had those raccoon eyes. I'll never forget how that looked. And it was purple veins poked out. And that happened at Moore Regional Hospital. Said they were going to give him a shower and he slips out of their hand and falls. Well, we don't believe that. And how my dad died always got to me. My dad passed away. Well, when he went in the hospital, he went because of sugar drop. And he had a clogged vein in his knee. He had a clot in his knee. And they got that out. All that came back good. Got his sugar up, everything regulated, and we're just there. But before they could discharge him, this is the honest truth. My biological mom, Gloria, was there. And I kept telling her, I said, don't agitate him. Don't pick at him. And for some reason, they think picking at people when they sick she's laughing about, how she's teasing him and telling him, oh, ain't nothing wrong with you, old man. And, trying to joke. And it's sadistic. It's sadistic jokes and sadistic teasing and picking because he's sick. Why do you think an old man want to have pranks and they laid up in the hospital? Telling a joke and pranking somebody and pushing somebody to be irritable is totally different. That's harm, not harmless. That's harm. Well, she made him upset and he did not want her in the room. He said, get out of here. And she made him so upset because she kept touching him, pulling at his clothes and stuff. He finally hollered, "Get the hell out of here, get the hell out of here." And when he started hollering that, this blonde-headed nurse runs in, and she's got this whole thing of Lopazaram in the needle, and she shoots him up with it before I know it. My daddy never recovered from that Lopazaram. I think that's the generic for Xanax. Now, y'all know you cannot give elderly that. That was, if any elderly has dementia, they sure enough gonna have it by the time that gets in their system. Well, my dad didn't recover from it. Next thing I know, they was like, well, he needs to go on hospice. That's how it was. He needs to go on hospice. They said he probably got 2 weeks to live. And they wasn't lying. So during this time, I'm telling Rollo that, you know, it's okay. You don't have to come down here to the hospital. He did come one time, and I was telling him, it's okay. You don't have to come down here to the hospital or anything like that, because it really ain't nobody coming there but me. I'm there with my daddy. The whole 2 months, I stayed with my daddy, and it wasn't nothing wrong with that, with nobody not coming. I liked it like that. And plus, I didn't want my mom to have so much pressure on her trying to stay with him, and you know, so she didn't have no problem with me staying with him. So we get him back here at the house, and he dies. He dies a few days, you know, January 27th, 2014, he dies. I don't hear from Rollo. Rollo didn't call me. Rollo didn't come check on me. He didn't try to see if I was okay, if I needed anything. Until about a day for the... Well, no, he didn't come. His sister came and she talked to me for a little bit. Probably like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and that was it. I pushed Rollo away at that moment, because it was so hard for me. He didn't have emotional sense to realize that I'm hurting, I'm grieving my daddy, and you know, it's certain things you just ought not say during this time. He didn't have no filter, he didn't regulate nothing. So when he did come up, he started the loudness, and he was like, he want to party, like, and I was like, no, I'm not into that right now. I'm not into doing any of that right now. I just stayed in the hospital for 2 months with my dad. I came home only to change clothes, and I came home for Thanksgiving to cook Thanksgiving dinner for everybody, and I came home for Christmas to cook Christmas dinner for everybody, and I went right back to the hospital. So I've been gone all this time. I don't want to party. I'm not in the mood to drink and things. I'm out here now, and I'm still drinking at that time. I'm still an alcoholic at that time, but you know, I'm putting my priorities first. I need to get some rest. I haven't really rested in 2 months. And he didn't understand that. So he want to come in. He came in and cleaned up and things. And he was like, you know, we got to have the house right for, you know, people be coming. But then he started fussing with me. And I was like, come on, man. It was so hard. I still remember how it felt like my brain was twisted. That's how bad it was when he would start fussing. And so he went back down the road, and I was like, okay. I left it alone. I just remember praying to God, Lord, you got to help me through this. I don't got nobody on my side. So see, having nobody didn't just start for me. Isolation and things didn't just start for me. I've been like that. And I've been knew it, but I've always had God, so I always got through it. And at this time, I do have a new friend that I met. We're not romantic or anything. It's just somebody I met, you know, somebody I do music with and things, and somebody I was giving a flyer to. And the whole time, this guy is, you know, he's guiding me through some of the steps and praying and things, and, you know, telling me what I need to hear to get through these moments. You know, this is This is how the situationship got started, come to think about it. But he's guiding me through, telling me what all I need to do. Now, this is in January. And by February, the whole planning of the funeral and all that was just horrible. This guy didn't know me like that. And he was like, well, I'll come up there and I'll support you at your dad's funeral. And I said, okay. So Rollo, he didn't come to my house, but some of the friends from down that way did send food and stuff up to be eaten, and I served the food to people who did come here. So that was all good, and everybody knew that I couldn't stop crying and things. I was just a ball of tears. So Rollo, he went back down the road. He didn't stay with me. And I was like, I know he gonna do right for this, but nah, I was wrong. He did not do right for that. So when it came time for the funeral, and I'd already told this other friend that I was talking to at the time, we were not in no situationship, by the way. But I had already told him, I said, man, my boyfriend he just keep fussing and things, and I just don't know what else to do. And he said, well, I'll come up there with you. And I was like, okay. At the funeral, Rollo shows up. He did show up. And as we're getting ready to walk in, Rollo walks up and says, do you want me to walk in with you? And I said, no. I didn't let him walk in with me because he had not been there for me. And I was angry. I was bitter. And I didn't want him to... I didn't let him walk in with me because he did nothing. He made that moment for me so bad. It was so bad. Y'all don't understand. Narcissism does not care about you losing your parent. People with narcissistic personality disorder are like little children. They can't regulate. They don't understand. They see that you have an emotions, but it's like, that's not my emotion, so that's not how I feel. I feel like partying. You feel like crying. I'm going to choose my partying over your crying. That's how that works. So when he wanted to walk in with me and tried to hold my hand at the front, I said no. And I didn't. I didn't let him walk in with me. I sat up there by myself. But he stayed to my daddy's front. Now, he didn't leave. I stayed to myself. And after the funeral was over, everybody went their own ways. And after that funeral was over, me and the guy, we went to go make sure my dad was buried in the right place. Because it was raining, and it was ice cold rain that day. So most people, everybody just went on to the cafeteria and ate. I didn't eat nothing. They just went on to the cafeteria and ate. I went with my friend up to the graveyard site. And that's where the big argument started at about my dad being in the wrong grave. Now, y'all listen. I brought a graveyard plot for my dad and my mom side by side. And when we got up there, it wasn't the spot where I paid for. It turned into a big argument. And I said, y'all wrong because this is not where I paid for. And the woman that was over the graveyard, she said, yes, it is. You remember I told you? I said, no, you didn't. You didn't tell me. The spot I paid for, she took and sold it to somebody else. That's what she did. She sold it the next day to somebody else and put my daddy on the end. Which now I don't care. I'm glad my daddy on the end. Easier for me to get to him. I thought you were hurting me, but it helped me. I remember the undertaker, I looked at him, I said, but this isn't where I paid for. And I looked at the guys who were doing the burying. They said, well, we got a job to do, and we were paid to put them right here, and we already dug the hole, so we're going to go ahead and put them right here. Now, mind you, once it hit the news came out and did something on that. Once it hit the news, the undertaker did say, well, we'll dig them up, and we will have them moved for you. Because he found out that I was telling the truth. And my mom said, no, we don't want to do that. Just leave him where he's at now. He already there, leave him. I was like, okay. And I said, well, you can leave him where he's at. Because my dad taught me at a young age that, once you're dead and gone, you gone. You don't know what's happening to you. You don't know about the dirt and all that, cremation, none of that stuff. That's not your portion anymore to worry about. That's for the living to figure out. So I was okay with him staying where he was at. But however, during this time, now mind you, I'm at peace with it now. I don't care. I'm remembering what my daddy told me. It's don't fuss over this stuff. This stuff passes away. So I'm at peace with it, but somehow my name kept coming up in this mess. Somebody kept going to the graveyard, throwing away the flowers, throwing away the things that they were putting on my dad's grave. Mind you, I wasn't putting anything on my dad's grave. I paid for the spread for my dad, and somebody took and threw away the spread that I had brought for my dad. That they leave on the grave after they bury somebody. Well, the woman who threw it away, she said, well, we don't leave stuff like that on the graves up here after 2 weeks, and we take it off and throw it away. Well, we didn't know that. But she took it off and threw it away, and whoever was, I wasn't buying gifts and things to put on the grave. I pretty much was like, I just need to go home and heal from this now, because keep in mind, now all this is moving pretty fast. Daddy died January 27th. And we had the funeral like February the 7th because we had to wait for his family members. Now, things are moving fast. I done been in the hospital 2 months. November and December and January. November, December, January. By February is the 3rd month. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I really just want to come home and go sleep. I really was just wishing Rollo would come home, let me lay in his arms so I could get me some rest. That's what I was wanting to happen, but that's not what happened. Rollo was calling, but he wasn't coming home like he was supposed to. Because he's running, he running that fast life. So I'm just trying to catch my rest back up. I'm tired. And I hear my name is in all kind of things. Now, why is this story important? This story is important because it shows the foundation of all the pressures that I was under starting in 2014. Well, it started in 2013 up to 2014. That's how the pressures originally started. And I was trying not to deal with my daddy grief because I was having to deal with Rollo cutting up and all this. And, at this time, I don't even think me and Rollo were broke up at that time. We were just back and forth with one another, It was getting to that point where we were just ending it. And I'm just remembering a lot of this stuff now, by the way. So that's why I said Rollo's death is not, it's not just about his death that I shut down on. About our breakup that I shut down on. I shut down on a lot of things in that same year because everything was too much. Everything was too much. I started a completely new life and never even told anybody. So that's what makes what I'm saying now about my dad's death relevant. After we get this done, now I found out people in the community is really disliking me because of this thing that happened about my dad's grave. Well, I didn't make a big deal about it. After it happened, I just let it go. I didn't understand. I was more concerned about why didn't the preacher come out and pray with us instead of having to call preachers from other churches to come out and pray. That was more my concern than worrying about that grave. Because I knew once he was gone, that's it. I was more concerned about what's happening in the churches today that pastors, they won't even pray for you if you don't pay them something or acknowledge them in some type of way. Well, by then, it's a scandal going on. The Boughton girls on the news saying that somebody's stealing stuff from the graveyard. Let me tell y'all how that happened. And I need to keep telling this story because, I do. You know how they say, like, sometimes you can tell your story, but you don't have to? Well, this is one of them times that I always felt like I covered up for my brother on this. But the real person that was behind all that was my brother. It was not me. My brother Joe, he was big with the news and things. I was not no news type of person at this time. I'm just now starting to learn how to do radio, so I'm not wanting that type of negativity in my life. And sure enough, he's telling people about, oh, this is what they did at the graveyard and all that. And, they're stealing from the graveyard. Have y'all seen Daddy's graveyard? I'm like, I don't care nothing about that grave. I said, I'm not stressing myself over that grave. That's what I said. I said, I don't care what they're doing. If you feel like they're taking stuff off the grave that you're putting up there, then stop taking stuff up there. I mean, I know you're entitled to, but if it's causing offense to you. I know if y'all hear kids hollering, it's neighbors. I hear them too. So, they be doing that stuff on purpose too, y'all. Because they know when I be outside or inside. But right now I'm feeling good sitting outside. So in this time, I don't care what they're doing. I mean, I'm just like, do what you gotta do. It don't bother me. But the news, we go up there and they say, Jamie, come see this, come see this. And so I go to see what they talking about. I'm coming from wait a minute. I'm coming straight from the hospital, okay? I'm coming from the hospital seeing about my mama, Gloria. My biological mama, Gloria. She's in the hospital. She's having one of these bleeding episodes. And they're already saying that she might not make it and wanting to put her on hospice and stuff. And so I'm leaving from there and just coming back up to the cemetery, Moore Regional Hospital. And I'm coming back up here to the cemetery to see what's going on. And when I get up there, he's like, y'all hurry up and get up here, hurry up. But he ain't told me no news coming. No news people coming. And so when we get up there, he said, well, she'll do the talking. And I'm like, what? And me not being able to speak up for myself back then. Y'all, I promise y'all, I did not know how to speak up for myself back then. Me being fast talked into doing that interview, they asked me, questions about what was going on with the grave. And my main thing was he was buried in the wrong spot, but it was no longer a big deal to me that he was buried in the wrong spot because we had, well, I let it go. It didn't bother me like that. But however, Joe, he didn't let it go. Joe was like, I'm calling the news. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. We're going to sue and all that junk. And I won't into that because, y'all, I knew emotionally I only had a little wind left in me. So now all these people are hating me. They calling us into meetings with the Brutonville Concerned Citizens. And I'm going over there. They like, we need y'all to join up with us so that we can what was it they wanted to do? So that we can get the funding and things we need over here to help the community out. And in my head the whole time I'm like, I'm not interested in none of this because from what I've seen, the poor is getting poorer and the rich is getting richer. And this time they're having this meeting and they're like, so we brought y'all over here because we're having a meeting and we need y'all to vote on, do y'all think we should raise the prices of the plots at the cemetery? At that time, I think they said $550, raising it from $150 or either $100. No, I think it was $150. Wanted to raise it from $150 to $550. And I said no, because if people are like us and they're poor and somebody dies unexpectedly, they might not can afford that. It'd be hard to get up. Because, there was parts where we had to scrape. But thank God I had money saved up. And that's how I was able to help pay some with my dad's. The funeral was paid one way. But the flower arrangements and things were paid separately because there wasn't enough funding to cover everything. Now, mind you, I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm passive aggressive now. I'm trying to, I'm just stacking stuff up. Stuff just stacking up. I can't deal with Rollo right now. I can't give Rollo my care and let him know what's going on with me right now, because I know he won't understand it. He'll just blab off some stuff and possibly go back and tell what I said, because he would do that. There were times where if I said something about somebody, he'd go back and tell them. So during this time, my relationship is rocky. It's rocky. It's falling apart. It's off and on. My dad has passed. The community is looking at me for answers for this and that. And then when I answer, it's not what they want to hear. So now I'm the villain. I'm trying to do my radio work, which is getting stressful because now I've ran up with a woman who just wants to take control over my entire life and tell me how to live this, live that. Very horrible person in nature to be a, woman of the cloth. Very nasty. Nice, nasty lady, as they call them. At the same time, still trying to go sing with God's anointed messengers. While going to sing with God's anointed messengers, having to pay for all the gas, any food. If we have to buy food, I'm going to be the one to buy it. If we need gas, I'm the one got to pay for the gas. I'm getting fed up with going singing now. I mean, all of this stuff is hitting me at one time. Like, I absolutely had no boundaries in that time. Jumping back to my dad. Oh, yeah, and the hospital's calling, telling me that I need to sign papers to have Gloria involuntarily committed so that they could go ahead and perform the surgery on her that they need to do to stop her bleeding. And so I'm running back and forth all these places. Mind you, none of this is really for me. I mean, it affects me, but all the weight was on me. And if I was to ask anybody, did they have an opinion about it? Nobody had an opinion about anything. Just whatever you say, we'll go along with whatever you say. Whatever you say. I mean, that didn't help me none. That put more burden on me, because now I got to figure out what to do by myself about all of these situations that's going on. Relationship, daddy's death, the graveyard, Gloria and her bleeding thingy. When you've been strong for too long, it does break you down. Eventually, to get through all of that, I hear a helicopter coming right over my head. Y'all better not throw nothing out, so y'all wait till they come across. I know y'all hear them. I hear them, but I don't. Oh, I see it. It's over there. I was looking above my head, but it's going the other way. Okay, I see it. Let's see what else. So all of that pressure is on my head to deal with all of that that's going on. And for some reason, nobody wanted to take the responsibilities of doing anything. So it was like I just was there and it got threw off on me. And I'm going to tell you some true feelings about all of it. Is I did feel like my siblings could have stepped up more. They could have had an opinion about things instead of just trying to put me out there by myself. I did get abandoned in that situation. I was standing there the whole time, all these people hating me because I stood and told the truth. And I was thinking that my family was going to back me. But nah, they didn't do that. They didn't back me. They didn't back me at all. So when you hear me talking about I'm dealing with grief, I'm dealing with more than just somebody dying that I loved and cared about. I'm dealing with a breakup. I'm dealing with my daddy dying, which I never really dealt with either. I tried to do it best I could, but I ain't really had the capacity to handle that quite yet. I'm dealing with the fact that people lied on me. They scandalized me. I'm grieving with my reputation of who I was in that time. I lost my reputation behind all of this. Behind things I had nothing to do with. You put my dad in the wrong grave, fine. My brother initiated all that other stuff. The Brooklynville Concerned Citizens, from what I saw, I didn't like what I saw. So I didn't, after I spoke and said about the graves were too high for people like me who may be on disability, after that, I left it alone. I didn't want nothing else to do with it. I stuck around long enough to get those names put on in 2015. I stuck around till 2015 and had that program to get the names put on the monument for over there at Brooklynville. And after that, I left it alone. I didn't want nothing else to do with nothing because people were, if you knew everything that I went through behind speaking up saying my dad was put in the wrong grave, and then I let it go. I didn't even smear that out like that. If anybody smeared that out, it was between Eloise and my brother Joe. After that, I didn't care. My daddy was gone. None of that was going to bring my daddy back. That's what I was looking at. None of it was going to bring my daddy back. And then, having to deal with my daddy's death by myself, Rollo wasn't here. He should have been right beside me, getting dressed like we always would do. We would get dressed together when we had to go attend a family events. He should have been doing the same thing. I got dressed by myself. He was usually right there beside me, helping me, handing me something, or telling me if something was on wrong, or if I need to take it off or something. He was always right there. But the moment I needed him the most, when my dad died, he was not there. I got dressed in that bedroom by myself, the best way I could. I didn't even wash myself that day. I was so distraught about, wait a minute, yes I did. I did take a shower. And that probably was like the first shower I had in a long time, because I was so distraught about what happened to my dad. And then, the thing about my mother, Gloria, I was like, it was like she was trying to do this intentionally to inflict emotional abuse to get her way. She kept talking about she wanted a cancer check before she tended herself. Before she take any treatment, she had to be paid. What? What? Somebody got to pay you to save your life. Do you get the manipulation that's in there? That's what I meant. So all this manipulation and mind control thing that's going on, I'm not really into nothing. Right about now, my head is screaming at me. And it's twisted, it's turning. I'm not sleeping. I'm not eating. I'm not doing anything that I'm supposed to do. But this one man, he keeps texting me. He keeps checking on me. He keeps me going. He keeps me going. And eventually I start because he showed up to my dad's funeral. He did come to my dad's funeral. And he was the one that took me to that graveyard. And he was the only one that really saw what happened up there besides me. He was one of the only ones that witnessed how I was getting done. And I just let it go. After I let it go, I started talking with him a little more. Not much more though, because I didn't really care to be trying to get in no new relationships or anything. So it was really just like, I'm glad you came to see about me and things like that. So I'm dealing with that too. But that's not serious at the time. That's harmless right then. There's no interaction outside of just texting to see how everything is going. I'm going blank. Y'all. Okay, let me see. Okay, so I'm dealing with my dad's death. Been staying in the hospital 2 months. I'm having to repeat this for myself because I'm going blank. Because the emotions is trying to suppress back down, and I'm trying to keep it up so it can come out. Daddy's death. wait a minute. First, me and Rollo are on the rocks. We're off and on. You know, in the midst of we're getting ready to break up because this is heavy. This is weighing heavy. He couldn't be there for me to support me when I needed him just one time. Out of all these years, I needed him just one time with my family member who he knew I loved, and I sat up under every day. And he ruined that one time. So I'm dealing with that. I'm dealing with my dad's loss. I'm dealing with these people from the Brutonville Concerned Citizen about this graveyard mess, which I don't want nothing to do with. And for the record, I'm going to say this again. I don't want nothing to do with it. I have no problem with where my daddy is laying at. When my mom said it was okay with her, it was okay with me. I let it go. But I took on a lot of verbal abuse from my mother because I brought those plots, and I got talked down on because I brought those plots. She said, why did you buy the plots when we already supposed to have family plots over there? Well, turns out somebody sold the plots that we did have over there. My granddaddy Rob, he brought 12 spots over there, and only a few of those spots had been taken up. But by the time my dad had died, somebody had then sold all their plots away. The last person to be put in one of our plots from our family was my daddy Joe in 2006. And it was supposed to be more plots left. And those plots got stolen or off and underneath the Boughton family. Now, they won't talk about that. But the Boughton family plots got stolen. There was supposed to be 12 with the additional 2 that was already taken for my grandparents, Rob and Maddie. Now, they're not going to talk about how they stole and sold our plots from underneath us. They won't talk about that. And that was on record that my granddaddy had brought all those plots. He brought one for each one of his children. And at that time, all his children were not dead. And the ones that were dead, they were buried in other areas. They didn't choose to come back to the home to be buried, which would have left those plots open for like the grandchildren or, you know, somebody in the family. And we didn't get that. They stole it from us. They don't talk about that. I talk about it now because I don't give a who knows what. But no, I would never stand with Brutonville Concerned Citizens because they stole from my family. They stole from my family. And once I realized what they were doing, I got the hell off and underneath them. I didn't want nothing else to do with none of them. Once I realized how dirty and conniving they were doing things, I didn't want nothing else to do with them. And far as Eloise went, far as she went, I didn't have no... She the original one who messed up the plottings. But I was like, okay, fine. I left it alone. I ain't never speak bad on that woman's name or nothing. That woman's name barely even... This is probably the first time I've called her name. I've never called her name. I never spoke bad on her or anything. And the reason why I didn't speak bad on her, because when I needed a plot, she was the one that said, well, just give me $100 for each one instead of the $350 and $500. I had went to her and I got my plot. That's why I didn't speak bad on her, because I was just glad to get a plot for that money that I was able to pay for it, because they were trying to make it where we had to pay more. And she said, no, just give me this and you go get your plots. And that's what I did. So that's why, even though she did me dirty, put my daddy in the wrong place, I didn't speak down on her, because at least she was willing to give us a place to put him and my mama together. So I brought 2 plots from her. So that's why it didn't... And I'm not worried about me or anybody else, you know. We just have to take life as it comes. But after that, why she thought for some reason that I had something against her. You know what? Come to think about it, I've never really told my true side of that until now. Why she thought I had something against her, I don't know what the rumor was, what was spreading on me. I never had anything against her. She ran my name in the ground, though, because I saw videos of where she would put my name out there on Facebook. But I didn't have... It ain't no being scared about nobody or anything like that. It was the fact that right was right and wrong was wrong. What was right was that... What was wrong was we wouldn't have never had to buy extra plots if the plots had not been stolen. That's what happened. So who stole the plots? Who stole my great-granddaddy Robert plots? Burial plots. I don't know. I don't know who it was, but if you were to say Brutonville Concerned Citizens was over it, then you'd have to be talking about Neva and Moore and all those who are associated with that citizenship over there. If you say Eloise did it, then you'd just be talking about Eloise. I don't know who did it, so I don't blame nobody. All I can say is that they are missing. My family should have had... Okay, let me think. Who was buried over there? I can't remember who I was buried over there. I just went blank on it. But I know when my dad died, there should have been about 6 plots left. Maybe 5. 5 to 6 plots left. And he didn't have a place. Now, if anything, I was upset about that. But then when she sold me the plots for cheap, instead of, I talked to the other women. The other women was like, well, you got to give us $350 and $550 if you want 2 plots for Miss Cammie. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. So you see, this was the stuff I buried down. This was the stuff that I repressed. This is the grief that I am dealing with now that's resurfacing because I never dealt with it until it started coming back when Rollo passed away. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a lot of things that packed on me all at one time. And I couldn't handle it. Didn't know how to handle it. But now I'm a lot mature. And I can say this without a shadow of a doubt that my granddaddy plots that he paid for with his hard-earned money were stolen from that cemetery. When my adopted daddy, which is my granddaddy Marshall, he had a plot for him and his wife up there that was stolen. I had to buy a plot a few days before his funeral. I took my money and I went and I brought my dad and my mom a plot. I said, well, I won't be able to pay for me one, but I'll get my mama and daddy a plot. And I said, I'll get them a plot. At least them two can be together. And the rest of us will just have to try to do what we can do. Boy, the way I got lied on. The way people looked at me funny after that, because I did not, I don't know, everybody wanted me to go along with what they were saying. And in my head, the only thing I could think of is my daddy dead and gone. I couldn't think about all that other stuff they were really talking about. That's why I didn't fight back, because I knew I didn't have the capacity or the strength to really fight back on any of that. So when Mama said it's okay, I said, okay then. And then that's when I noticed Mama had turned on me, because she was like, why did you go buy the plot when we had plots? Doggone it, girl, you did wrong. They stole from us. But nobody was standing up for that part. Nobody stood up for that part. I was standing by myself. Everybody waited to talk behind closed doors. But when it came time to go front and forward, only one person stood front and forward, and that was my sister Christina. Nobody else came forward and said, yeah, this is wrong, how they did it. Nobody else. It was me and Chris I call her Chris, but it was me and her on the news. We were on the news telling what happened. And I told them that, yeah, my dad's plots, he was put in the wrong grave. I brought 2 graves, and they put them in the wrong place. That's what I said. And what about that was a lie? None of that was a lie. Because first of all, I shouldn't have had to buy any plots. I shouldn't have had to pay anything, because my daddy had already paid for those plots, which were stolen. And other people buried onto our plots. That's what happened. Other people were buried onto our plots. Now, who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for that? I'd like to know. Who sold those plots knowing they were already sold? And it was on record. It's on record that my dad, my great-granddaddy Robert brought those plots. It was on record. If they haven't been destroyed. He brought 12 plots, one for each one of his children. And those children did not use those plots. those children moved away from home, and they were buried where they lived at. Like some were buried in Virginia, I think. I want to say, no, it's Washington D.C. But see, nobody didn't fight for what was right. Instead, they just put your name on this watch list so that people will keep watching you and thinking that you're the one that caused the problem. But it wasn't me. The real problem makers never stood up, and they probably would never admit to what they done. But if you want to fight for something, Mr. Boughton, fight for those plots that your granddaddy worked hard to pay for, that they stole and resold and put people in those graves. Who did that? It's only two people that was over it. It's between Navon and Eloise. Okay, so now we're moving on. I didn't address that. That's one of the things I was grieving. The next thing was I was grieving the hate and resentment that people had toward me that I didn't realize until my dad died. If Daddy had not passed away, I wouldn't have known these people hated me. So I had to grieve friendships and relationships. And I had to take into account people who wasn't there for me when he passed away. Do I still want to be around you? My answer was no. When I needed you the most, you wasn't there for me. And I just kind of pushed it down and blocked it out. And from that moment on, I didn't deal with grieving those friendships losses, those family member losses, the community loss. It was all the grieving process for me. So, again, when Rollo passes, anything that happened within that year, 10 years ago, is part of this grieving process that I'm dealing with now. It wasn't just him. It wasn't just a breakup. It wasn't just a wife. It was no one thing. It was a series of heavy weight that was on me. It was a series of burdens. And to get away from it all, you remember the guy I kept telling you about that kept texting me to make sure I was okay? Well, I just started getting to know him and started hanging out with him. He started telling me places that I could go to for programs and things. And that's how I ended up burying all of that was happening to me. I just started traveling, doing more work in radio, keeping myself busy. Oh, and during this time, too, is also my children. My children are growing up. So I'm grieving the fact that my children are now moved out of the household. They are out living on their own. That was a big event change for me because I was used to my children being around me, able to make sure they was okay. And now I had to deal with the fact that I got children that's out here in the real world. Now they living with other people. And I'm wondering, are they being treated right? You know, there's lots of things going through my head about my children, too. And I'm having grandchildren at the same time that are just, you know, everything is happening so fast. Everything happened so fast, I don't know, I just lost. And to deal with everything, I escaped through traveling. So I never dealt with nothing. And I'm going to leave that at that. I've already talked enough on it and don't want to overdo it. Don't want to get myself upset because I did just get upset about those plots because that is the wholehearted truth. If anything, we should sue for those plots being taken. And it never really hit me till now because like I told you, I'm just now really being able to look back on all the stuff that was happening to me during that time of the breakup. I didn't have time to really try to fix no relationship and wasn't going to try to fix no relationship once that wife showed up. I'm going back to my car now. Oh, it felt so good up here. I knew I could release something up here. It was time, y'all. It was time for me to release all that. And it came out. and I'm thankful. Now, back in my car. That's why I like my prayer guard. It don't play. If you got anything on your mind and you just need God to help you, find your area in your home and sanctify it, concentrate it, dedicate it over to God. Dedicate your whole home to God. Give it to God. Because it helps. And just like that, I already been out here 2 hours. But that felt good. So maybe that is part of what's eating me too, is that, because I've been seeing a lot about the Brutonville Concerned Citizens popping up in my timeline on Facebook. But they're not talking about the graves that were already brought, that they stole and sold. And at this point in life, I'm not caring who really gets offended by what I say, because I'm on a community watch list anyway. And that's what I do. I'm not searching for truth. I know the truth. The truth is, somebody stole those graves from out of my family. They stole those plots from out of my family that my granddaddy had already paid for. And if it had not been for my family taking part in that, though that graveyard and stuff and the church and things would not exist if it had not been for the Boughtons taking interest in that. And the churches and things were kept up a long time. You know, my dad did a lot of work on those churches, but after he passed away, I don't know what happened. Maybe the training left some of those people. Maybe those people didn't get trained right who were supposed to be, you know, upholding things now. And it's not, the church still looks good. The church is still up and standing. We still have services. But as far as those graves go, I don't know who's over what. But I wish they would leave my name out of it. The only time I want you to put my name in it is if you're going to tell me who stole my granddaddy's graves. That's all I want. Who stole his plots? That's all I want to know. If you're not going to tell me that, then leave my name out of stuff, because this whole time I've been sitting back silent for the last 10, how many years? Is it 10 years? Let me see. Since 2014, I've been sitting back silent. And that junk had made me sick. And that's part of the reason why, too, I numbed it and blocked it out, because it was just too much. I've been sitting back 11 years. 11 years holding in that I knew that them people stole my people graves, my people plots. They stole it and resold it to somebody else. But they ain't talking on that. They're not saying who did that. All they trying to establish now is ownership of who owns this, who owns that. And really, it's the most disgusting thing you could ever see in the black communities, is to see the black people just pour themselves just stealing from each other. Just stealing from each other and smiling while doing it. Stabbing each other in the back and just smiling. Sick-minded individuals. Y'all, let me drive around to the front of my house. It felt good out here, though. I ain't gonna lie. I needed this outside time. I mean, really, they just stealing from each other. And they are smiling in each other's face at the same time. And for me, I don't put it past if that's not how I got on that watch list. I don't know. But I know people started treating me differently after that. And it was like people stopped coming to my house. After my dad passed away, and that went down with my daddy, people stopped coming to my house that used to come. And I don't know, family started treating me different. They act like I was the one who did it. No, they just needed a person to take the fall for it. When the real fall should have went on the one who really did it. They needed a fall person. And I just happened to have been that fall person that had to take the blame for all of that. But it's okay, though. It's okay. I think I've done quite well for myself. And, you know, considering everything that I was going through, maybe it wasn't right to to bring it up until now. Maybe God knew I couldn't handle it until now. And now that it just so happened that when Rollo died, it woke up all that stuff. It wasn't just the things I went through with him, but part of the things I went through with him had a lot to do with my dad. Because him and my dad, they get along, but when he first started coming, they didn't. But you got to think, I lost two people that I really cared about in almost 2 years apart. I lost my dad 2014. By 2015, me and Rollo's relationship was pretty much over. Just like that. And that was traumatic for me. I went through a lot. I didn't want to leave that relationship like that, but I didn't have no choice. He had a wife. So I had to leave it alone. Or else I would have been just like I was at the funeral. At the funeral, it was nothing I could say or do. Just show up and show my respects. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have legal paperwork for each other, then you're single. And me and him didn't have that. So I wasn't able to say or do anything for him. And it's okay. I will learn how to get through all of that somehow. And that's about it, y'all. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say about it. Just that I was underneath a lot of pressures 10 years ago. And so I didn't deal with any of that stuff. I didn't deal with the fact that I didn't deal with nothing. Y'all know what I did? I shut down completely and I ran off with the guy who was texting me. I started hanging with him and blocked everything out. I didn't think about it. When I was with him, I stayed up, and that's probably why I stayed up under him, because I didn't have to think about what Rollo was doing or what my dad, my dad's death or anything. I didn't really have to deal with any of it because we always had such good conversation that we just never really focused on any of that stuff. And I was able to go forward because of that. It did turn into a situationship, which if you listen to plenty of the podcasts, you'll hear that wasn't good either. But for the moment, it did get me past where I need to get through. It got me through those 10 years. And that's about how long that situationship lasted 8 of those years. 8 of those 10 years. So during that time, I was in good standings and not thinking about any of this. And that's how I got through life. But then now comes August 5th and he's gone. And now I have to go back and live all of that. I had to just deal with it. Just give it some type of closure. And the closure is, it's still the same thing. The man was married. And he didn't tell me. He stabbed me in my back. That was like the biggest stab in the back ever. And I couldn't really deal with it like that. So I did what people who don't know what to do with information like that do. I went to the next man and ended up getting hurt by that man too. Nothing serious never came of it. I just stayed up under him until he did something stupid, and then now I didn't want to be with nobody. Now I'm just here single, enjoying life, and I don't know. Maybe some fighter coming in me for my granddaddy plots. Took my granddaddy plots, and I ain't even thought about that stuff, y'all. But that's really what happened. They stole my granddaddy plots, and you think I want to be on anybody's team? No. You stealers, you liars, you cheaters, backbiters. You took my granddaddy's plots. And that's just really not hitting me like that. I didn't process it then. I ain't gonna lie. So, yeah, I'm gonna need to write a lot of this stuff out. All right, y'all. Peace, love, and happiness. Until next time. I don't know. We get somewhere. I just say we getting somewhere on this. I'm starting to feel a little lighter hearted because I know where a lot of my tears are coming from. I know where a lot of my sorrows and my anger is coming from. And I now know something that I need to do and something that I need to look into is what happened to my granddaddy plots. Because clearly I wouldn't have had to buy a plot if my granddaddy plots had not been stolen. And do you know that same woman, she just got charged with stealing, but then smiling somebody's face? That's why I don't care if the community doesn't like me. Because they could never make me hate God and miss the truth like that. They tried to. That's why they stayed on. They want to keep me in mental bondage so that I wouldn't say nothing about this coming up now. But now I'm remembering. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for the memory. That was wrong how they did my granddaddy. That was wrong how they did my daddy Marshall. We having to scrape up a plot because they stole where he was supposed to be buried, him and his wife. Okay, y'all. I'm going for real this time. I gotta go do something.